What would you do if the woman you loved, the woman you trusted with your ancient, guarded heart, was carrying another man's child and planning to pass it off as yours? Most men would cancel the wedding. Most men would walk away in silence. But Dante Ashford was not most men. He was the vampire king who erased entire bloodlines for petty insults. The monster who once hunted a man's descendants for 4 generations because that man dared to betray his sister. He never forgave. He never forgot. And he never, ever let a wrong go unanswered. So when he discovered the truth about his beloved fiancée, he did not cancel anything. He smiled. He kissed her hand. He told her she looked beautiful. And then he planned the most brutal, devastating, soul-crushing revenge the vampire world had witnessed in 300 years. But this story does not begin at the altar. It begins 3 days earlier, with a trembling human maid who had everything to lose and absolutely no reason to speak up. And yet she did. Iris had been a maid in the Ashford estate for only 3 days when she whispered 7 words that would change everything. Your fiancée is pregnant by her ex. The vampire king's smile didn't fade, but every candle in the grand hall extinguished at once. The Ashford estate sat on the edge of Seattle like a crown of dark jewels, its Gothic spires cutting through the Pacific Northwest mist. Inside, Dante Ashford stood before a floor-length mirror in his private chambers, fastening cufflinks that had belonged to his father, and his father's father before that. White hair fell past his shoulders in waves that caught the firelight, a stark contrast to his sharp black suit and the ancient power that hummed beneath his skin. In 3 days, he would marry Genevieve Laurent, the vampire duchess who had somehow slipped past every wall he had built over 3 centuries. She made him laugh. She made him want to be more than the brutal king his enemies whispered about. For her, he had begun to imagine something he thought lost to him forever, a family. His phone buzzed. A text from Genevieve, missing you terribly, my love. This separation before the wedding is torture. He smiled, typing back with unexpected tenderness for a man who once made an entire bloodline disappear for insulting his sister. Meanwhile, 4 floors below in the servant quarters, Iris Bennett clutched her uniform with white-knuckled fingers. 23 years old, college dropout from a small town in Oregon, and now completely out of her depth. She had taken this job out of desperation, her student loans drowning her, her mother's medical bills piling up faster than she could count. The agency promised good pay and asked no questions. They didn't mention her employer was vampire royalty. She smoothed her black dress and tried to remember the instructions: eyes down, speak only when spoken to, never enter the king's wing unannounced. The head housekeeper, an ancient vampire named Cordelia, made it very clear what happened to humans who broke protocol. Nothing good. Iris was assigned to the guest wing, preparing rooms for wedding attendees. She worked quietly, efficiently, trying to become invisible. That was how she survived her foster homes growing up: be useful, be quiet, be unseen. But invisibility had a strange advantage. People forgot you had ears. She was changing linens in the blue room when she heard them, Genevieve's voice, breathy and intimate, coming from the adjoining bathroom. Iris froze. Harrison, you cannot keep calling me, Genevieve whispered harshly. The wedding is in 3 days. A male voice, unfamiliar, desperate, you are carrying my child, Jenny. My child. How can you marry him? Silence. Then Genevieve's cold laugh. Your child, yes. But Dante's heir. Do you understand what that means? Our baby will inherit 7 kingdoms, Harrison. 7. What were you going to give us? A middle management position at your tech startup? You told me you loved me. I loved what you could give me at the time. Now I love what Dante can give me. Power. Immortality for our child through his bloodline. A queendom. Iris's heart hammered. She should leave. She should run. This was not her business. Dante will find out, Harrison said weakly. Dante sees what I want him to see. He is so desperate to be loved, it is almost pathetic. The mighty vampire king, reduced to writing me poetry. He will claim this child as his own and never question it. Now leave through the side entrance before someone sees you. Iris heard footsteps. She barely made it to the hallway, her arms full of linens, her mind racing. For 2 days, she said nothing. It was not her place. She was human, powerless, nobody. Who would believe her anyway? But every time she saw Dante Ashford walk through the estate, laughing with his younger brother, gently teasing the staff, his eyes soft when he mentioned Genevieve's name, something twisted in her chest. Her own father had been lied to, cheated on, humiliated. She watched it break him slowly, year by year, until there was nothing left. Silence protected liars. She learned that young. On the 3rd day, the estate buzzed with final preparations. Dante was inspecting the ballroom where the reception would be held, speaking with the event coordinator about the positioning of the orchestra. Iris was supposed to be arranging floral centerpieces, invisible as always. But she kept thinking about the tenderness in his voice when he said, "Make sure there are gardenias. They are Genevieve's favorite." The coordinator left. The staff filtered out. And suddenly, impossibly, Iris found herself alone with the vampire king. Every survival instinct screamed at her to stay quiet. But a deeper, older instinct, the one that made her speak up in her 3rd foster home when she saw another kid being hurt, the one that cost her safety but let her sleep at night, that instinct moved her feet forward. Dante Ashford turned, noticing her for the first time. His eyes were storm gray, ancient and sharp, but not unkind. "The gardenias look perfect," he said simply, mistaking her approach for service. Iris opened her mouth. Closed it. Felt her whole body shake. "Your Majesty," she whispered, moving close enough that no one else could possibly hear. "I need to tell you something, and you will either thank me or kill me, but I cannot stay silent." His expression shifted, intrigued. He tilted his head slightly, and she caught the predator beneath the gentleman. "You have 10 seconds to make this worth my time, little human." Iris took a breath that might be her last. "Your fiancée is pregnant by her ex." The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Dante's smile didn't fade. But every candle in the grand ballroom, all 300 of them, extinguished at once, plunging them into shadow broken only by the gray Seattle daylight filtering through stained glass. When he spoke, his voice was soft as silk and sharp as a blade. "Tell me everything. Now before we go any further, I need to know you are really with me on this journey, because what happens next is going to get intense, and I need my community here. If you are already hooked and you are not subscribed, you are literally breaking my heart right now. I stay up crafting these stories for you, losing sleep, and all I ask is 1 second of your time. Just 1 click. Hit that subscribe button and join the fastest growing vampire love stories community on YouTube. We are building something special here, and I want you to be part of it. Also, tell me in the comments where you are watching from. I love knowing where my story family is enjoying these tales, whether you are in Tokyo or Texas, Lagos or London. Drop your location below. Now, let's get back to Dante, because trust me, what he is about to do will leave you speechless. Iris told him everything. Every word she overheard. Every detail she could remember. Her voice trembled, but she did not stop, did not soften it, did not look away from those gray eyes that seemed to age 1,000 years as she spoke. When she finished, the silence stretched so long she wondered if he would simply kill her for being the messenger. Then Dante laughed. It was not a kind sound. It rolled through the ballroom like thunder, dark and vast and terrifying. He threw his head back and laughed until the stained glass windows rattled in their frames. 347 years, he said softly, his accent thickening with emotion, something old-world and dangerous bleeding through. I have ended bloodlines for petty insults. I have raised entire covens for disrespect. And this woman, this clever, beautiful woman, thought she could make a fool of me in my own house. He turned to Iris fully now, and she saw something in his face that made her understand why enemies spoke his name in whispers. What is your name, little human? Iris Bennett, Your Majesty. Iris. He tested the name like a wine he might savor or spit out. Do you know what happens to people who bring me bad news? Her chin lifted despite her fear. I imagine the same thing that happens to people who let you walk into a lie. Another laugh, this one sharp and surprised. You have courage. Foolish, suicidal courage, but courage nonetheless. He moved closer, and she smelled old books and expensive cologne and something wild underneath. Can you prove what you heard? Harrison visited through the east side entrance. Your security cameras would show him. And if you have a doctor verify the pregnancy timeline, I am guessing it will not match when you and Genevieve were together. Dante's smile turned into something beautiful and brutal. Smart girl. Iris was dismissed immediately after, sent back to her quarters with a curt nod and instructions to speak to no one. She collapsed on her narrow bed, shaking. What had she done? She had just destroyed a royal wedding. She had just humiliated one of the most powerful vampires in North America. She would be dead by morning. But morning came, and with it, a summons. Not to the king, but to pack her belongings. Cordelia appeared at her door, face unreadable. You are being transferred, the head housekeeper said coldly. Transferred where? That is not your concern. Be ready in 1 hour. Iris felt panic claw up her throat. This was it. They were moving her somewhere remote to dispose of her quietly. She thought about running, but where would she go? You did not run from vampire royalty. They always found you. Meanwhile, in his private study, Dante sat across from his younger brother, Felix, and his oldest friend, a vampire named Tobias who had fought beside him in wars humans had long forgotten. The security footage confirms it, Tobias said, sliding a tablet across the desk. Harrison Vale, Genevieve's ex-fiancé, entered the estate 17 times in the past 2 months. Always through the east entrance. Always when you were away on kingdom business. Felix, who had Dante's same white hair but wore it shorter, shook his head in disbelief. And the pregnancy? 3 months along. I was in Vienna 3 months ago for the summit, Dante said quietly. Genevieve stayed here, claiming she was ill. Brother, I am so sorry, Felix started. Dante held up a hand. His face was perfectly calm, but Felix knew that look. That was the face Dante wore before he burned an entire estate to the ground in 1887. That was the face that preceded legends. Do not be sorry. Be ready. Ready for what? Dante's smile could have cut glass. A wedding, of course. We would not want to disappoint our guests. Iris was transferred to a smaller residence on the opposite end of the Ashford property, a cottage she had not even known existed. It was beautiful in an understated way, all exposed beams and soft lighting, more comfortable than anywhere she had ever lived. A knock came that evening. She opened the door to find Dante Ashford standing on her small porch, looking impossibly out of place and entirely at ease all at once. May I come in? He asked, as if he did not own every brick and board. Iris stepped aside wordlessly. He entered, glancing around the space with approval before turning those unsettling gray eyes on her. You are afraid of me. It was not a question. Yes, she admitted. Good. Fear means you are paying attention. He settled into a chair without invitation, gesturing for her to sit. I need your help, Iris Bennett. My help? The wedding will proceed as planned in 2 days. Genevieve suspects nothing. I have been the perfect, doting, oblivious fiancé. But revenge, true revenge, requires an audience and a certain theatrical timing. His smile was wicked. It also requires someone Genevieve has never noticed, someone who can move through the preparations invisibly. You want me to spy. I want you to be my eyes where I cannot be. And when the moment comes, when I bring her entire deception crashing down in front of the 7 kingdom representatives, I want her to see your face and realize that the maid she never bothered to notice is the one who destroyed her. Iris should have said no. Every rational thought screamed to refuse, to ask for her pay and disappear back to her small life. But she thought of the tenderness in his voice when he spoke about Gardenius. She thought of her father's broken face when he learned the truth too late. What do you need me to do? Dante leaned forward, and for the first time since she told him the truth, she saw past the king and glimpsed the man underneath, the one who had been betrayed by someone he had dared to love. Help me make sure that when I strike, it is so precise, so complete, that she never recovers. Over the next 2 days, Iris became a shadow within the wedding preparations. She reported everything to Dante, Genevieve's private phone calls, her moments of practiced affection, the way she rehearsed her vows in the mirror with the cold precision of an actress preparing for Broadway. But on the evening before the wedding, Dante summoned Iris to the cottage again. This time he brought a bottle of wine that was probably older than her great-grandmother and 2 glasses. Sit, he said, pouring. You have earned a moment of honesty. Iris accepted the glass carefully. Honesty about what? About why this matters beyond pride. He stared into his wine, and for a moment he looked tired in a way that had nothing to do with sleep. I had a sister once. Anastasia. She was everything good that our family produced, everything I was not. Kind, gentle, trusting. His voice went soft and distant. She fell in love with a human man who claimed to adore her. She was going to turn him, share eternity with him. I warned her to wait, to be certain. But she was so in love, so certain he was different. He took a long drink. The night before the turning ceremony, I found her in her chambers. He had poisoned her with vervain and stolen 3 centuries worth of family artifacts. She survived, barely. But something in her broke that never healed. Where is she now? Iris whispered. A convent in Ireland. She has not spoken in 70 years. His eyes met hers, blazing with old pain. So you see, Iris, this is not just about Genevieve's betrayal. This is about every lie told to someone brave enough to love. This is about making sure the ones who weaponize trust pay a price so steep that the next person thinks twice. Iris understood then. This was not cruelty. This was justice carved from grief. My father was a good man, Iris found herself saying, surprising herself. He worked maintenance at a community college in Portland. My mother left when I was 4, just disappeared one day. He raised me alone, worked double shifts, never complained. She traced the rim of her glass. When I was 16, I came home early from school and found him sitting at the kitchen table, just staring at a letter. Turns out my mother had not just left. She had been living 2 hours away with another family. Another husband. 2 other kids. She had kept both lives running for over a decade. Dante listened without interruption, giving her the same attention he probably gave kingdom treaties. He died 2 years later. Heart attack. But I think it was really heartbreak, just delayed. She looked up at Dante. So when I heard Genevieve in that room, I did not see a vampire duchess. I saw my mother. And when I saw you talking about Gardenius, I saw my father. And I could not stay quiet. Something shifted in Dante's expression, a crack in the armor. You are far braver than you give yourself credit for, Iris Bennett. Or far more damaged, she said with a weak smile. In my experience, the two often overlap. He refilled her glass, then raised his own. To the broken parts that make us bold. They drank in comfortable silence, and Iris realized with surprise that she felt safe here, in this small cottage, with this ancient and terrifying man who somehow understood the specific shape of her wounds. Tomorrow will be brutal, Dante said finally. What I am going to do, what I need to do, it will not be kind. Are you certain you want to be part of it? Iris thought of her father's face. She thought of Anastasia in her silent convent. She thought of every person who ever swallowed a betrayal because speaking up felt too dangerous. I am certain. Dante smiled, and this time it reached his eyes. Then let me tell you exactly how we are going to destroy her world. He leaned forward, and as he outlined his plan, Iris felt something like purpose settle into her bones for the first time in years. What would you do if you discovered a secret this devastating? Would you speak up or stay silent? Let me know in the comments. The wedding day arrived draped in perfect Seattle autumn sunlight, the kind of golden afternoon that made even vampires appreciate the world. The Ashford estate gardens had been transformed into something from a fairy tale, white roses climbing every surface, silk drapes billowing in the breeze, and 300 guests representing the most powerful vampire families across North America. Iris worked the event in her maid's uniform, refilling champagne flutes and adjusting floral arrangements, invisible as planned. But her heart hammered against her ribs because she knew what was coming. Genevieve looked stunning in a custom Vera Wang gown that probably cost more than Iris would make in 10 years. She floated through the pre-ceremony reception, gracious and glowing, one hand occasionally resting on her stomach in a gesture so perfectly calculated it made Iris's teeth clench. Dante played his part flawlessly. He was attentive, charming, every inch the besotted king. He kissed Genevieve's hand and introduced her to visiting dignitaries with pride in his voice. Once, his eyes found Iris across the garden, just for a heartbeat, and she saw the cold fury burning beneath the performance. The ceremony began at sunset. Guests took their seats in the garden pavilion. The orchestra started a classical piece that Genevieve had selected. The officiant, an elder vampire who had presided over royal unions for centuries, took his place at the altar. Dante stood at the front in a black suit that looked like it cost more than a Tesla, his white hair pulled back, his expression serene. Felix stood beside him as best man, though Iris noticed his jaw was tight with tension. Then the music swelled, and Genevieve began her walk down the aisle. She was halfway to the altar when Dante raised one hand. The music stopped instantly, cut off mid-note as if the world itself had obeyed him. Forgive the interruption, Dante said, his voice carrying effortlessly across the stunned crowd. That old-world accent thickened, turned dangerous. But I find myself unable to proceed without addressing a small matter of truth. Genevieve's smile faltered. Darling, what? You look confused, my love. Let me clarify. He descended from the altar with predatory grace, and the temperature dropped 10 degrees. Frost began creeping across the rose petals. When we met, you told me you valued honesty above all things. You said your previous relationship ended because your ex, Harrison Vale, was a liar. Do I have that correct? Genevieve's face went pale. Dante, this is not the time. Oh, I disagree. This is precisely the time. He circled her slowly, and every vampire in attendance sat forward, sensing blood in the water. You see, I have spent 3 centuries building a reputation. Some call me brutal. Some call me unforgiving. But do you know what they all call me? Thorough. He stopped directly in front of her, and his smile was beautiful and terrible. So when my new maid, lovely Iris, come forward, darling. Iris stepped out from the side of the pavilion, her legs shaking but her spine straight. 300 pairs of ancient eyes swiveled to her. When Iris overheard you telling Harrison that you were carrying his child, that you planned to pass it off as mine, that I was so desperate to be loved I would never question it, well, I took that personally. The crowd erupted in gasps and furious whispers. Genevieve's face went from pale to crimson. That is a lie. She is lying. She is a jealous human who... Dante held up a phone, and Genevieve's voice poured out of it, crystal clear. Dante sees what I want him to see. He is so desperate to be loved, it is almost pathetic. The recording Iris had not known she made until Dante asked for her phone 2 days ago. The recording she captured after returning to that room with her device hidden in her apron, confirming every detail. Genevieve's whole body trembled. You recorded me? You violated my privacy. I verified your betrayal, Dante corrected softly. But please, let us not end there. Felix, if you would. Felix approached with a tablet, his expression disgusted. He turned it toward the crowd. Security footage of Harrison Vale entering the estate 17 times in 2 months. Medical records confirming a 3-month pregnancy when my brother was in Vienna. And my personal favorite, Felix swiped to a new screen, text messages between Genevieve and Harrison discussing how they would split the Ashford fortune after she secured her position as queen and found a way to remove Dante from power. The reaction was immediate and volcanic. Vampire dignitaries rose from their seats, shouting in outrage. Alliances with the Lauron family were verbally dissolved on the spot. Genevieve's own family members turned away in shame. But Dante was not finished. Genevieve Lauron, he said, his voice dropping to something ancient and absolute. You did not just betray me. You weaponized my grief over my sister. You studied my wounds and used them against me. You plotted against my family, my kingdom, my legacy. He leaned close enough that only she in the first few rows could hear, but Iris caught it. So here is what happens next. You leave this estate with nothing but the dress on your back, which I will permit because I am feeling generous. The child you carry will be provided for financially until adulthood. I do not punish innocent children for their parents' sins. But you, Genevieve, you will never hold power in any vampire territory in the Western Hemisphere. I will personally ensure every kingdom knows what you are. And when that child asks about their mother someday, the only story they will hear is one of greed, lies, and spectacular failure. Genevieve's composure finally shattered. Tears streaked her makeup. Dante, please, I made a mistake, You made a choice. Now live with the consequences. He turned his back on her completely, the ultimate dismissal. Felix, have her escorted from the property. As security moved forward, Genevieve's eyes found Iris, and the hatred there was molten. You ruined everything, she hissed as she was led past. Iris met her gaze steadily. No. You did that yourself. The guests dispersed quickly after that, some in disgust, others energized by the scandal. The Ashford estate emptied like water from a broken glass, leaving only staff and family. Iris returned to the cottage, exhausted and shaking from adrenaline. She had done it. She had stood in front of vampire royalty and helped expose a betrayal. She should feel victorious. Instead, she felt hollow. Because she saw Dante's face when that recording played. She saw 3 centuries of pain flash across his expression before the cold mask slammed back into place. She had helped him get justice, but she could not give him back what was really stolen, the belief that he could be loved without condition. She was packing her few belongings, assuming her employment was over, when the door opened. Dante stood in the threshold, still in his wedding suit but disheveled now, tie gone, hair loose, looking more human than she had ever seen him. You were not supposed to leave without saying goodbye, he said quietly. I assumed you would want me gone. The job is done. The job. He laughed, but it sounded broken. Is that what you think this was? He entered slowly, and she saw that he was barely holding himself together. I humiliated her in front of the 7 kingdoms. I destroyed her reputation, her future, everything. I won, Iris. Complete and total victory. He sank into the chair like his strings had been cut. So why do I feel like I lost something vital? Iris set down her bag and knelt in front of him, meeting his eyes. Because revenge does not heal the wound. It just makes the person who hurt you feel a fraction of what you felt. But the hurt is still there. 347 years, he whispered. I have been alone for 347 years, by choice, by protection. And the one time I tried, the one time I let someone close. His voice cracked, and Iris watched the mighty vampire king break in her tiny cottage living room. Without thinking, she took his hands. They were cold, marble hard, trembling. She did not deserve you, Iris said fiercely. She did not deserve your poetry or your gardenias or your hope. But that does not mean you were wrong to offer them. It means she was too broken to recognize their value. Dante looked at their joined hands like he was seeing something impossible. You are human. Fragile. You will age and die in what feels like a heartbeat to me. And yet you have shown me more genuine care in 5 days than Genevieve did in 2 years. His eyes met hers, vulnerable and searching. Why? What do you gain from comforting a monster? You are not a monster. You are someone who loves deeply and protects fiercely and yes, punishes those who deserve it. But that does not make you a monster. That makes you someone who refuses to let cruelty go unanswered. She squeezed his hands. And I am not comforting you for gain. I am doing it because you are hurting, and I know what that feels like, and no one should be alone in it. Something shifted in the air between them, fragile and new and terrifying. Dante reached up slowly, giving her every chance to pull away, and touched her face with a gentleness that contradicted every rumor about him. Iris Bennett, he murmured. What am I supposed to do with you? Her breath caught. I do not know. But maybe we figure it out together? 3 months later, Iris stood in the main library of the Ashford estate, cataloging a collection of first edition books that Dante had been acquiring since the 1700s. It was her new job, one she actually loved, estate archivist. Dante had asked what would make her happy, and she admitted she had always loved books, had dropped out of college because she could not afford to finish her English degree. He hired her the next day. Paid off her student loans the day after that. When she protested, he simply said, I have had 3 centuries to accumulate wealth, Iris. Let me spend it on something that matters. Her mother's medical bills disappeared next. Iris cried for an hour when she found out. But the money was not what made her stay. It was the way Dante found excuses to visit the library every afternoon. The way he brought her coffee exactly how she liked it. The way he asked about her day and actually listened, his ancient eyes soft with genuine interest. It was the way he was letting her see him, really see him, beyond the king and the legend. The library door opened, and Dante entered carrying a small bouquet. Not roses. Gardenias. Iris looked up, confused. Those were Genevieve's favorite. No, Dante corrected, setting them on her desk with a small smile. Those were what Genevieve told me were her favorites because they are expensive and rare. I did some reading. Your favorite flower is actually lavender. But the gardenia greenhouse was already built, and I thought, perhaps we could assign them a new memory. Something better. Iris felt her throat tighten. You are giving me her flowers? I am giving you flowers that deserve to mean something true. He rounded the desk slowly. Iris, I am ancient and complicated, and I come with centuries of baggage and enemies and a reputation that would terrify most sensible people. Good thing I have never been accused of being sensible. His smile widened. I cannot offer you a normal life. I cannot promise this will be easy. My world is dangerous, and there are those who would use you to hurt me. So protect me. You are quite good at that, I have noticed. Dante cupped her face with both hands, and she leaned into the coolness of his touch. What I can offer you is this: absolute loyalty, fierce protection, a love that will span however long we have, whether that is your natural lifetime or eternity if you choose it. I can offer you every part of me, the good and the monstrous, with no lies and no games. His voice dropped to a whisper. I can offer you a partnership where you are seen, valued, and chosen every single day. Iris felt tears slip down her cheeks. That is all I have ever wanted. Then say yes. Yes to what, exactly? His smile turned playful, that glimpse of humor she had come to adore. Well, I was thinking dinner first. Then perhaps a proper courtship, because you deserve to be wooed correctly. Then, if you will have me, perhaps eventually a wedding that actually ends well. But I am getting ahead of myself. For now, just say yes to letting me love you, Iris Bennett. Say yes to letting this be real. She pulled him down and kissed him, soft and sure and full of promise. When they broke apart, Dante rested his forehead against hers. You know the irony? He murmured. Genevieve's betrayal, the worst thing that happened to me in decades, led me directly to you. The maid who whispered 7 words and changed everything. Your fiancée is pregnant by her ex, Iris quoted softly. The 7 best words you ever spoke. He kissed her again, deeper this time. Because they brought me here. To you. To this. Behind them, every candle in the library ignited at once, bathing the room in warm golden light. Iris laughed against his mouth. Show off. You have not seen anything yet, love. Wait until I introduce you to the family. Felix already adores you, but the cousins are going to test you mercilessly. Bring it on. I survived foster care. I can handle vampire politics. That is my brave girl. Dante pulled her close, and for the first time in 3 centuries, he felt something he thought lost forever: hope. Not the desperate, grasping hope he had with Genevieve, but something steady and true, built on honesty and mutual respect and a connection that started with 7 whispered words. Outside, Seattle continued its evening rhythm, unaware that in the Ashford estate, a vampire king and a human archivist were building something more powerful than any kingdom, a love based on truth. 2 years later, the Ashford estate had never looked more alive. Fairy lights wrapped around every tree in the garden. Music drifted through open windows. Laughter echoed from rooms that had been silent for decades. And in the center of it all stood Dante Ashford, vampire king of the Western Territories, wearing a perfectly tailored charcoal gray suit and a smile that made his enemies question everything they thought they knew about him. He was nervous. 349 years old, survivor of wars and betrayals and centuries of solitude, and his hands were actually trembling. Felix appeared at his side, grinning like the annoying younger brother he was. You look terrified. I am not terrified. I am appropriately alert. You have faced down entire armies, brother. This is a wedding. Exactly. Far more dangerous. Dante adjusted his cufflinks for the 17th time. Armies are predictable. Love is chaos. Felix laughed and clapped him on the shoulder. She is going to say yes. She already said yes. 2 years ago, in fact. This is just the formality. What if she changes her mind? What if she realizes she could have a normal life with a normal man who does not have 3 centuries of enemies and a reputation for burning down the homes of people who annoy him? Then I will remind her that normal is boring and you give excellent gifts. Felix straightened Dante's boutonniere, a sprig of lavender wrapped with a single gardenia. She loves you, Dante. The real you. The one who writes terrible poetry and talks to the estate cats and once threatened to declare war on Amazon because they delivered her books a day late. That was a justified response. She was excited about that package. You called their corporate office and demanded to speak to Jeff Bezos personally. And I would do it again. Felix shook his head, still laughing. You are hopeless. And she loves you anyway. Now get out there before she thinks you ran. Dante took a breath he did not technically need and walked toward the garden. The ceremony was small by royal standards. Only 50 guests, all carefully chosen. Tobias stood as Dante's second, his ancient face softened by something like joy. The vampire families who had proven loyal over the past 2 years filled the seats, along with a handful of humans Iris had grown close to, including her mother, now fully recovered and crying happy tears in the front row. But Dante saw none of them. He only saw her. Iris walked down the aisle in a simple ivory gown that caught the fairy lights like captured stars. Her hair was loose, the way he loved it. Her eyes were bright with tears she was trying very hard not to shed. She carried a bouquet of lavender and gardenias, and when she reached him, her smile could have ended wars. You look terrified, she whispered. I am appropriately alert. She laughed, that sound he would never tire of hearing. I love you, you ridiculous ancient creature. I love you more, my brave little human. He took her hands, marveling at how perfectly they fit in his. Ready to do this? I have been ready since the day I whispered 7 words and you did not kill me for it. Best decision I ever made. Well, second best. The first was falling in love with you. The ceremony was brief but beautiful. They wrote their own vows. Dante's were surprisingly poetic and only mildly threatening toward anyone who might ever hurt her. Iris's were funny and tender and made 3 ancient vampires cry, though they would deny it later. When the officiant pronounced them married, Dante kissed her like she was the only person in any world that mattered. Every candle, every fairy light, every lamp in the entire estate blazed brighter for a single perfect moment. The reception lasted until dawn. Dante danced with his bride until her feet hurt, then carried her around the floor for another hour because he was not ready to let go. He gave a toast that managed to be both hilarious and deeply moving, thanking everyone who supported their unusual love story and issuing a cheerful warning to anyone who might consider causing trouble. My wife, he said, savoring the word, walked into my life as a maid with no reason to care about my heart. She risked everything to tell me a truth that saved me from a terrible mistake. And in doing so, she gave me something I had stopped believing in, hope. So if any of you ever consider lying to either of us, remember that I have a very long memory and absolutely no mercy for those who threaten what I love. The guests laughed nervously. Iris just smiled and kissed his cheek. Later that night, after the guests had departed and the estate had grown quiet, Dante and Iris sat together on the balcony of the master suite. She was tucked against his side, his arm wrapped around her, both of them watching the first hints of sunrise paint the Seattle skyline in shades of pink and gold. So, Iris said softly, what happens now? Now we live, my love. We build something real. We host terrible dinner parties and argue about what to watch on Netflix, and I continue my ongoing feud with your neighbor's loud dog. You cannot compel the dog to be quiet, Dante. We discussed this. I was not going to compel him. I was going to reason with him. You do not speak dog. I am a fast learner. She laughed and snuggled closer. What about the bigger stuff? The kingdoms, the politics, the enemies? They will always be there. But now I face them with you beside me. He pressed a kiss to her hair. And eventually, if you choose it, I will offer you eternity. But only when you are ready. Only if you want it. I will love you for however long we have, Iris. Whether that is 50 years or 500. You would really let me stay human? Watch me grow old? I would love you through every wrinkle and gray hair. Though I suspect you will be stunning at any age. He tilted her face up to meet his eyes. This is your choice, always. I will never pressure you. I will never make you feel less than for being mortal. You saved me exactly as you are. Iris felt tears slip down her cheeks again. Happy tears. The kind she never thought she would cry. I think I want forever, she whispered. With you. But not yet. I want to experience more of this life first. Travel. Learn. Maybe finish that English degree. Done. We will travel everywhere. I own property on 6 continents. And I will personally fund whatever education you desire. His smile turned mischievous. I will also sit in on your classes and intimidate any professors who give you less than perfect marks. You absolutely will not. I absolutely will. But I will be subtle about it. You do not know the meaning of subtle. I am learning. You are an excellent teacher. She kissed him then, slow and sweet and full of promise. When they pulled apart, Dante held her close and watched the sun rise over the city, something he had not done in centuries. It hurt, just a little, but he did not mind. Some things were worth a little pain. Thank you, he murmured into her hair. For what? For being brave enough to whisper those 7 words. For seeing me, really seeing me, and choosing to stay. For giving me something I never thought I would have again. And what is that? He smiled, and it was the most genuine expression his face had worn in 300 years. A family. Iris's mother moved into a cottage on the Ashford estate grounds, close enough to see her daughter daily but far enough to have her own space. She made peace with her son-in-law's unusual nature after he saved her life during a home invasion by rogue vampires seeking leverage against the king. Dante eliminated the threat in under 4 minutes and then made Marianne tea while she recovered from the shock. You are not what I expected, she told him that night. I rarely am, he replied. But I love your daughter more than I have loved anything in 3 centuries. I will spend eternity proving I deserve her. Marianne smiled and patted his hand. You already have, dear. You already have. The mansion that had been cold and formal for so long slowly transformed. Iris filled it with books and warmth and laughter. She adopted 3 rescue cats that Dante pretended to merely tolerate but secretly adored. She started a foundation for foster children aging out of the system, funding education and housing and support services. Dante supported every project, wrote enormous checks, and occasionally terrified bureaucrats who tried to create obstacles. They hosted holiday gatherings that became legendary. They opened their home to vampires and humans alike, building bridges that had never existed before. They proved that love between their kinds was not just possible but powerful. And every year, on the anniversary of the day Iris whispered those 7 words, Dante filled their bedroom with gardenias and lavender and held his wife close and thanked whatever fate had brought her stumbling into his life. Your fiancée is pregnant by her ex, he would whisper against her lips, smiling. The 7 best words I ever spoke, she would reply. And then he would kiss her, and the candles would blaze, and another year of their impossible, beautiful love story would begin. So what do you think? Could you ever be brave enough to speak up like Iris did, knowing it might cost you everything? Drop your thoughts below because I genuinely want to know. If you watched this entire story and you are still not subscribed, I do not even know what to say to you. I poured my soul into this, stayed up late writing, crafting every twist and turn, and you cannot give me 1 second to click that button? Come on. Do not do me like that. Subscribe right now and become part of this family, the fastest growing vampire love stories community on YouTube. We are just getting started, and I want you here for every moment. And listen, if you love this story, if Dante and Iris grabbed your heart and would not let go, I need you to know something. The next story is even more emotionally devastating, even more twisted, even more addictive than this one. I am talking about a vampire revenge plot so intricate it will have you yelling at your screen. You see that video on your screen right now? Click it. Do not wait. Do not scroll away. Click it right now and let me wreck you all over again in the best way possible. Trust me, you do not want to miss what happens next. Go. Click it. I will see you there.